This is NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, with the latest NASCAR local, regional, touring, and international racing news and views, here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Hey everyone, and welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. I'm Hannah Newhouse, live from my living room, joined by Kyle Rickey, live from what looks like your living room as well, Kyle. Last week you were at Stafford, though. Did we decide that you should probably stay home with this social distancing?
Yeah, I'm in the spare room, the fun room, and last week I did the chroma key feature on this app. It hasn't worked very well this week, so I'm not sure what I did, but it was more than just in my teeth like it was last week. So we figured we'd do this.
There you go. I like the thought process of that. I got a little more decorating done in my house over the last week. So been productive. Have you done anything fun during this now free time, this quarantine that we have? Obviously, we're not going to short tracks. I know you had an important card game that we talked about with your family. We've been playing cards via my cell phone. We play a lot of those iMessage games. Are you very good at cards, Kyle?
I'm good at cards. I'm not good at cell phone games. I like the physicality of the game, which you're not supposed to do these days, but the family's close, so it's only 4 of us.
There you go. Yeah, so. You're under the rule there.
And I went up to Thompson the other night. We were supposed to run the icebreaker this weekend, and it's only a few miles up the road. So because of that, I've decided that on Sunday evening it was going to be nice out. Go take a stroll up to the Big T, and I was the only one there. But place looks good for when we open.
I saw your Facebook photos. That's one of my favorite racetracks to go to. That's a very, I feel like, underrated place as far as the facility and what it can facilitate and the parking, everything about it. Like, I was very impressed the first couple of times that I've been to Thompson.
Love the place. It's been there since 1940, so they have a lot of practice in all of that. So hopefully they can begin year number 80. They'll celebrate their 80th anniversary on May 26th or 28th. So hopefully they're open by then. Fingers crossed.
Well, speaking of games that we were talking about earlier, one of the things we've talked about a lot over the last couple of weeks, and really everyone in sports has, is the concept of esports that's really taken over. We talked about the Pro Invitational Series, which had a very interesting turn of events on Sunday from Bristol. Never did I think that we would see someone lose a sponsor virtually, but it is 2020, and it is a strange time we live in. But Kyle, you and I have both been involved firsthand with a lot of esports now over the last couple of weeks. We both called the NASCAR Heat Pro League race last Wednesday. But aside from that, short tracks, that's what we're here to talk about, have really embraced this concept of esports. And it was something that I thought they maybe would put up a little bit of a wall for, being very traditional in the manner of racing. But Stafford Motor Speedway now has a weekly series. We've seen Evergreen Speedway embrace that and start a traveling series on iRacing. I mean, talk about Stafford. You get to commentate them, correct?
I'm not directly involved. I help out with the social media, the pre-race show, which is done via the Instagram page at Stafford Motor Speedway. And but it's a great program. It's, I think, now at least a 3-week run. The first week was a trial. Last week was the first official event. Brian Narducci picked up the race win in a 80-lap modified event that saw, I think, 54 drivers try to qualify for. They started 26, 4 heats, couple consies, and an 80-lap event. So a full race program. I had never really seen that before until 2 weeks ago when they did it on the trial basis with Teddy Hodgson picking up the win on that evening. And it's nice to see. I think it's kind of always been there, but we really haven't taken much notice of it until the last couple of weeks when we really haven't had much of a choice. And a lot of short tracks have embraced it. As you mentioned Evergreen. They're starting an event. Seekonk Speedway up here in Massachusetts has an event or like a traveling event where they're running different tracks every week with their regular drivers. So I guess it helps when the average fields of a lot of these drivers at these racetracks is about 22. So as the old guy, I used to have iRacing and I got kicked out, so I don't have it anymore. But now I do wish I had the platform still.
Well, the nice thing about iRacing for you is that a lot of them, you can just turn the paddle shifters on, so you don't actually have to know how to use a clutch or a manual.
Again, I mean, every time there's an opportunity, I stalled once.
Maybe you should learn how to drive stick, Kyle.
And this could be a wonderful platform for me to perhaps learn, but
You got all the free time in the world, man.
I
Come
do
on.
for the next couple weeks anyway. Hopefully it's no longer than May 9th.
Oh, let's hope not. We will all go stir crazy by then. My dog will have wore her own racetrack into the backyard doing pace laps. So, but Evergreen Speedway, we mentioned that they ran this past weekend as well. Their first race of the traveling season, they ran their Mark Galloway 150 at Stafford. And I'm supposed to help commentate the Summer Showdown in just under a week for them. And I'm very new to the commentating on the iRacing platform. So I actually decided to jump on last night and watch their practice session, which resulted in me practicing in their practice session. Kevin Hamlin was in there, a couple of local racers being Cole Rash, Tristan Heider, they were all in there. I still iRace on Dylan's iRacing account.
Yeah.
And needless to say, he does not have a lot of friends in the late model world right now. He's not very good. People are probably thinking he should stick to open wheel. So I quickly got out of that lobby and resumed my commentating.
First off, and I know we're short on time here in the open, but I got the Dylan Welch shirt on.
Yes.
Big fan. I got to watch him last week in an IndyCar virtual race at
Not good.
Gateway. And he had a moment there. So I would stick to midgets, perhaps. And if you're under his account in a late model, that's not going to really bode for him well.
Basically, this is why we're commentators.
That's right.
Fine. Everything's fine. It's fine, guys. As he's been exiled to outside, so he can't hear me right now. So we're all good. But speaking of a couple guys that were in the race on Sunday for the Mark Galloway 150, a couple of those locals of Meridian Speedway, my home track, Casey Tillman was there, as well as a couple of names that travel with the Touring Late Model Series to visit Meridian Speedway regularly. We'll have promoter and track manager Adam Nelson join us here shortly to talk about what Meridian Speedway is going through right now with COVID-19, as well as what to expect from them this up-and-coming season.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Power isn't born, it's built over time. For over 65 years, Hercules Tires has been providing the muscle to move more drivers. Whatever the vehicle, whatever the terrain, and we back it with a powerful protection plan. So wherever the road or the trail takes you, we have the selection, value, and strength to get you there. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
All right, guys, welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. We've been using this time to spotlight some people within the short track community, and one of those people is Adam Nelson from Meridian Speedway. Meridian, Adam, is obviously a racetrack close to my heart. But before we get into the details of it, how are you guys holding up out there in Idaho? Looks like you've got some beautiful weather there at the racetrack, though.
Yeah, it's really nice. Nice today, Hannah. Thanks for having us on. Got lucky today. I got to sneak out of the house and come open the gates for an electrician because, those essential guys still have to do the essential things. And so it was nice to come and make sure that, all the buildings are still locked up and everything. So it's nice weather, though. I mean, it can't get any better than it is right now.
Before we start talking about the serious stuff, when Hannah Newhouse shows up at Meridian Speedway, does she get the VIP treatment? Does she have like her own skybox off the front stretch or something?
I don't know. I think, she's like any other racer around here. It really depends on what group she's standing in because, you got your lovers and you got your haters, right, Hannah?
Oh, yeah. I definitely have a fan group there and then a maybe not so much fan group at Meridian.
But when it comes to the racetrack, I mean, the racetrack welcomes everybody in with open arms, and John and Hannah and Mason and their whole Newhouse group, when they come here, we like to just welcome them, and, and they do their thing and do some winning and have a good time, and usually leave without, drinking everybody's beer.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the groups that I usually get the elbow nub for is when I'm hanging out with your kid, Colton Nelson. We're the same age there, and we all usually get into a lot of trouble. So I have to be on good behavior now when I try and come back home to Meridian.
Yeah, definitely. So,
but we'll get into the dynamics of Meridian Speedway. I always say that it's one of my favorite racetracks. I'm not even biased in the sense to be able to come out there. I call it the Bowman Gray of the West Coast. But something that has always stood out to me is every time I've been there, doesn't matter if it's a middle of the week show, a random weekend show, you guys have the capabilities of essentially packing that racetrack. And it's something that we see so many short tracks struggling to do right now. And as the promoter there, I mean, do you have a secret or something that you guys have really just honed in on to continually draw in fan base?
Well, I don't know if it's a secret. We've shared what we do with lots of folks in the industry, and some use it and some don't. And we with 30 events here every year, we have to do innovative things, to get people that many times over and over. And we're fortunate to be right here in downtown Meridian. I mean, we're close to everything. We're not out in the Boontillies, so we just work hard. We know which events are the ones that people want to come see, whether it's a big late model show or a sprint car or super modified show. And when it comes down to local club racing or NASCAR points racing in our case, if it's not that large ticket item, we go out and we work at promoting getting group tickets into people's hands and just try to get as many people here as possible. I mean, our model dictates that we can't pay the expenses if we're not selling hot dogs and beer. So we need to sell hot dogs and beer, and the only way to do that is with people in the grandstands. So I don't know if it's a secret. I mean, I feel like sometimes we talk to people and they don't get it, but it seems pretty simple sometimes.
Track has been there since 1951. What is your role at the racetrack, and what got you into motorsports and then ultimately to the management level?
Well, I mean, our group currently, we've been here at Meridian for 12 years. There's, a number of partners, 3, and I'm just the managing partner. So a number of us work really hard at trying to make sure everything, goes off the way it is. As far as Meridian Speedway goes, my dad and my family had the racetrack in the 80s, and they operated here. And prior to that, my grandfather operated Meridian Speedway for one of the racing groups in Meridian here. And so, it's that place that's always been, I mean, since I was little growing up, this is where I've always been. But in the interim, before we got to Meridian 12 years ago, we had to go out and, to put ourselves in a position to be qualified to do it. Me and my family, my immediate family with my wife, Kelly, and my kids, we went and took over a racetrack just outside of town for 3 years and got our feet wet. And then we were over in Roseburg, Oregon at the Douglas County Speedway for 3 years prior to that. And just working on deals and opportunities to eventually get back home. So that's been the goal for me since I was, as far as I can remember, and before all that happened, I spent, a number of years racing bombers and hobby stocks, street stocks, and late models right here at Meridian. So I can't think of any place else I'd rather be.
One of the cool things about Meridian Speedway, too, you'd mentioned it, multiple generations. We've still got Al Russell running around the racetrack. You've got your guys' family running around the racetrack. I know my dad came there. He came there with his dad as well. Lots of generations within Meridian Speedway there. But something else that stands out that I have obviously taken heavy notice of is the females that race at Meridian Speedway. We have a ton of them, between girls that raced in the super late models to the Bomber divisions, we had Sierra Giesler now, who, raced sprint cars, and Melissa Weaver. The promotion there of the females getting in that, how has Meridian taken that and really pushed that to encourage more girls, and as well as up and coming racers in the high school division?
Well, what's funny is I don't think the Speedway in general goes out and promotes it and has tried to make it a thing. It just is by evolution here. I mean, the grandfathers and sons that have raced here, they have kids of their own and their grandkids the guys are they're having ladies, and and they just are coming out and racing, starting in the junior stinger division and some of that stuff, and and just elevating through the classes, and it's just, we have some really big standouts here. And I would say any given race day we could have 8 or 9 ladies racing, and it seems normal to us, Hannah, because they're always, Bubbles Berry and Melissa Weaver and Daytona Wirtz and Sierra Giesler, and there's just a ton of them, and it just doesn't seem that far-fetched to us here. And when you ask that question, I just kind of think, I'm like, is that weird? I mean, maybe it's not so prominent. You obviously would know.
We have 8 to 10 ladies race at the Stafford Motor Speedway, my NASCAR home track, every Friday night. So we're beginning to see more and more of it at short tracks across the country. Want to talk about? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the dads that that have a family, and they don't end up with any boys, and the girls are always at the racetrack regardless, and so they just don't know any better. I mean, if they want to race and they want to wrench, they just do it, and I think that I don't think there's really a promotion other than just family togetherness promotion with those racing families. They do it themselves, and then those girls get in the cars and they perform and they win, and then of course they own 50% of the fan base here at Meridian Speedway just by default.
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about your 2020 season here for a moment. Obviously on hold, like every other short track across the country. Already have canceled a couple of practice sessions. I believe the 18th was your scheduled season opener for the modifieds, and then the sprint cars the following week. What does it look like right now for you guys? Obviously on hold. How long can you hold?
I mean, obviously we're going to open as soon as we get the green light. So we don't know when that is. I mean, we're not jumping the gun and saying, months and months of stuff is canceled, because we just don't know. We do know that potentially that could be the case, but it's certainly not it's not under our control. So currently, the way it sits in Idaho, Governor Brad Little has put a stay-at-home order in place until the 14th of April. That means on the 15th, we see what that means, and we're going to assume that means that if it's not extended, which we all know it probably will be, but let's just pretend it's not extended, then we're going to be bound by the city of Meridian's mayor's social distancing regulations, which match those of the CDC, and et cetera, et cetera. And so we have an avenue where we could do test and tunes meeting all of those criteria. Whether we could race or not, obviously that's just going to depend on the fiscals of it. But hopefully we can get back to test and tuning and at least do something like that late April. If the governor extends that stay-at-home order until April 30th, then we all know the answer. Then we just wait around till the 30th to decide, what is the best course of action. Obviously, we want to be proactive, and we want all of the folks here that race to be safe and all of that, but there's just so much unknown stuff going on that, speculation and all this crazy stuff that you hear and read about, you just don't know what to think. So unfortunately, we're just stuck waiting to hear. I mean, obviously NASCAR has put the national point system on hold up until that predetermined date. And if for some reason we get to race early because we're Idaho and not New York, then obviously we'll run non-NASCAR points races and do our thing. But really just going to depend on what happens. I mean, we watch the news briefings every day for 2 weeks in a row. I mean, I know as much as everybody else, so I don't know what to tell you.
And that being said, to build off of that there, a lot of the drivers and the teams throughout the nation right now are also facing the hardships of having to stay home. A lot of non-essential workers, as we all are doing these from our homes here doing our calls. What has the communication been like between yourself as, track management and these teams on what maybe they're anticipating from their side of it getting back to racing?
Well, I don't, obviously our phone rings or our emails pop and what are we doing? When are we racing? What do we do? We have the ones that say, oh my God, I can't believe you haven't shut down until 2021. And, there's just such a wide stream of communication that comes in. In our case, we've been working with, all of our drivers and teams are stuck at home. Their cars are sitting there. The only thing that we've done a little bit proactive to help them get ready in case, the schedule lights and it's time to race in like 5 days is we've worked on shipping individual tire orders to homes because you can still do that. And, at least giving them something to do in the shop, assuming that, since we're supposed to be open in 5 days or 3 days or whatever it is, that their cars are ready. So really, we've just been kind of just trying to hold down the fort and let everybody realize that, there's nothing that anybody can do until there's either, there's either a civil war or they rescind an order, or we're all pretty much stuck in the same deal.
Absolutely. So what does your schedule look like? Some of the highlights of your schedule once we do get going, and hopefully we will get going here in the next 4 to 6 weeks or so.
Well, April was ladled with some soft openers because it is, spring. And so we plan to lose 2 to 3 events during April and May generally. So a lot of that early stuff is pretty soft events as far as specials, I guess, for lack of a better term. We get into May and we have some pretty big events with, Smash-A-Rama and some of those things where it's kind of more, just local racing and smash 'em, crash 'em stuff. But towards the end of May is when, we pop Diamond Cup and with the 2-day sprint car shows where the guys travel in and June or May with our Memorial Day show. I mean, those are really good race dates. They have traditional trophies guys race for, and they're really more racing relegated. The soft openers are all race stuff, but again, we don't usually expect a huge crowd on those first ones because it is cold. It doesn't matter how sunny it is right now. At 9 o'clock, you're still freezing. So we know people tend to, wait till the summer months. So really, I think we're in good shape if we can kick things off, here in May or mid-May or even late May would be good. I think most of our events are still on the schedule, where we have 30, that's technically only losing 4 of 30. And so with that, the tracks that only have 12 or 15, 4 of 12 or 15 is a huge percentage. So I think we're fortunate that we have so many on the schedule already.
And right there over your shoulder, I want to point it out, the water tower has become famous with Meridian Speedway. If anyone follows the ARCA Menards West Series, they've seen that trophy. And I have to ask what the decision was to implement that into a trophy, because it is not a normal looking trophy. But if you know Meridian Speedway, you know the water tower.
Well, obviously for years, when it comes to traveling folks and back in the day when traveling from Boise or Ontario, Oregon to Meridian was a large, jaunt. The water tower was always just that place. If you're a racer and you're on the freeway headed in, you just knew that, as soon as you could see that thing, you knew that you were close. And obviously it's been here a lot of years, and it hovers over the pit area. And it's kind of one of those things where you can either, not be really tickled with the location of it, or you can own it. And so we just decided we'd own it. We don't have anything cool like a golden driller, and we don't have clocks and stuff. So we've got the water tower and that, that NASCAR K&N, now the ARCA Menards Series trophy. We made a likeness of it, and we hoped everybody thought it was cool. And now it is cool, and it's in the NASCAR Hall of Fame sitting there, the Haley Deegan version. And it's just something really cool. In fact, I think we've toyed with, creating those for some of our larger local events, because people just want a water tower. I don't know.
Hey, it was an idea that stuck, and we ran with it, and it makes for some cool pictures. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of anything anywhere to stand. So I just, here we are, water tower. Like I said, I can pivot around. You can see it's just empty. The North End grandstands. Everybody, all the painting here at the Speedway, we got most of it done, Hannah, before the whole lockdown deal. So we're really good shape. I mean, we got some crash walls to paint. Most of the buildings we got opened up and unwinterized. So we feel like we're in good shape if we get. I mean, we feel like if they you can race, and we only got 3 days to prepare, we can be ready at the Speedway. It's just a matter of whether the folks with cars and are ready to race. I'm assuming they are, and then of course it's going to matter on whether the general public is comfortable coming out to the Speedway, and we'll just let the all the professionals make that decision for them.
Well, the grandstands definitely look pretty. I saw that paint job and they look awesome.
Yeah, we literally just got a coat on them just before 2 weeks ago. We went red, white, and blue with them last year, and everybody dug it, so we repainted them, and it looks good. You can't paint the aluminum, but those old wooden ones above the dairy barn, you can do that.
Perfect. Well, Adam, thank you so much again for calling in and hanging out with us for a little bit today. Best of luck. We hope everything opens up for you guys. I know Idaho's got it pretty mellow compared to the rest of us out here. So we wish you guys stay healthy and a successful season.
Well, yeah, no, we're definitely fortunate, and I'd just like to give a shout out to all the racers across the nation who aren't as fortunate as those of us in Idaho right now, and hope you get on the track soon. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Adam. And when we return here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, we'll learn a little bit more about Meridian Speedway in our NASCAR Whelen Engineering Track Spotlight.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Each and every week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, we get to highlight one of NASCAR's short tracks brought to you by Whelen Engineering. And like we mentioned it, Meridian Speedway, Adam Nelson told us a lot about their history, but it's a paved quarter mile located in Idaho's Treasure Valley. It was established in 1951 in Meridian, Idaho on a rural 2-lane road. But if you visit that speedway now, it is nowhere near rural. It's currently in the heart of Meridian, Idaho. The track was built on land that was and is still owned by the Meridian Dairy and Stock Show. The Athletic Association had operated the track from 1951 to 1981 before taken over by private corporation, and the association used Speedway revenue to support youth sports programs throughout the Treasure Valley. The Speedway has another legacy. It also served as part of the set for the 1980s Western film Bronco Billy that starred Clint Eastwood. There's a carnival scene in that movie that included a dramatic big top fire, and it was shot at the Speedway. Something cool is it's a small, tiny bull ring of a racetrack, but it averaged crowds of 2,500 people during race seasons. You would recognize familiar names such as Kenny and Davey Hamilton, which cut their teeth there on a regular basis. It used to be an ASA-sanctioned racetrack, but it became NASCAR-sanctioned just a handful of years ago, and now is visited by touring late model series as well as the ARCA Menard series, and has a weekly touring series that consists of late models, modifieds, and sprint cars. Their season usually runs from April into late October. That's Meridian Speedway. Thanks to Whelen Engineering for another short track spotlight.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Kyle, We have seen tracks continue to postpone their opening seasons. A couple more postponed over the past weekend.
Yeah, and something I guess we're going to expect here over the course of the next month at least, probably longer. Sunset Speedway up in Ontario, Canada, they were set to open up on May 9th, but general manager Brian Todish posted on the track social media accounts the other day that they have decided to start or delay the start of their season. Berlin Raceway in Michigan, they announced that they are also on hold. They were supposed to open their season coming up in a couple of weeks with their annual icebreaker. Right now, they're going to look to start on May 9th with practice sessions on April 25th and May 2nd. Of course, that can be pushed back. Tucson Speedway in Arizona also has announced that they have canceled or postponed all of their events through the month of April. They will obviously look forward to getting back on track once the pandemic passes. No schedule announcement at Seekonk Speedway, but they have announced that they have partnered with Sunoco Race Fuels again this season for their NASCAR Whelen All-American Series program. They run on Saturday nights in Massachusetts from May until hopefully May through the month of September. So that's about the news from all the short tracks from around the country and up in Canada.
Well, between short track racing, trying to get their full schedule in, whether that be for NASCAR points or just to fulfill those race dates, NASCAR has that agenda as well. Kyle, I feel like we're going to be seeing each other a lot more than just once a week and every other couple weeks.
Probably quite a bit more here over the course of the next month and a half or so. I'm optimistic. I'm trying to be optimistic anyway that this bypasses sooner rather than later. I know there are some folks out there that say, 4th of July or later. I'm going to push for Memorial Day.
You asked what was on my TV earlier. Do you have any Netflix suggestions for me?
The Office. You can never go wrong.
Office.
Well, you can never go wrong with The Office. I think I may do an Office marathon this weekend. I have never watched the last episode. It's like that I've never watched because I can't bring myself to watching the last episode of The Office. So I might do that this week.
Have you ever watched How I Met Your Mother?
I've bits and pieces of it. Nothing. No, I've never.
Okay, you should watch that. It's really good. It's got office-y humor.
Okay.
But I watched the entire season the entire show throughout college. And one day I was hanging out with a group of people and they asked me about the show ending. And I said how I thought the show ended. And they were like, Hannah, that's not how the show ends. And turns out I fell asleep in the last episode and I never actually knew how the show ended until about 3.5 years later.
And your friends ruined it for you.
Yeah, they did. They definitely ruined it for me. I was very emotional.
Well, I think that's going to be my weekend and probably watch some more virtual racing. Stafford's going to be on again Friday night. Sprint cars are at Knoxville on Wednesday night. So there's a lot to watch. It's amazing how quickly all these networks have picked up. NBCSN has a short track showdown all week with Cup drivers at short tracks that the Cup Series really doesn't go to anymore, except for Martinsville. So a lot to watch, a lot to soak in if you're an esports fan and an e-racing sports fan, because it's about all we got right now. That and classic races.
Yeah, between Dylan and I, we take turns alternating in our e-office. You can see it back there with our wheel, and pretty much just take turns yelling throughout the house as we call virtual races. Janet's very confused, so we take her on about 7 walks a day to make up for that. But I hope everyone stays healthy, continues to wash those hands. We appreciate you guys tuning in to NASCAR Coast to Coast this week. We look forward to doing it again next week. Hopefully we'll have some more exciting stuff to talk about, maybe some good news on the horizon.
You've been listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen, also brought to you by Hercules Tires. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.